In August of last year, news reports emerged of a disturbing trend in a township called Tsakane, about 50 kilometers east of Johannesburg. At a local school, multiple students had attempted suicide within the same short period of time. It was the second time that something like that was happening at that school. Almost exactly a year previously, 4 children had attempted to take their own lives, and 2 students and a teacher had died by suicide. As disturbing as the news reports were, they likely would not have stood out to me from the rest of South Africa's dramatic daily news cycle if I had not very recently visited Tsakane to spend time with a local teenager, one around the same age as those who had died. Her name is Naledi, and she emailed me with a request to be featured on my podcast. Intrigued by Naledi's confidence and ability to take initiative at such a young age, I asked her to give my contact details to a parent or guardian who could consent to our interview. Almost immediately, her father class messaged me, granting me permission to interview his daughter. I noted how quickly he had acted to show his support. The timing of Naledi's email was also important. I had been thinking a lot about my own girlhood at that time, having just published my first personal essay titled "South Africa Doesn't Need More Heroes." The essay is my reflection on the first 30 years of South Africa's democracy and what it was like for me growing up in the 1990s and early 2000s, the optimistic, heady years when we all had high hopes for the future of the brand new Rainbow Nation. In the essay, I wrote about how I'd witnessed, both within my own family and during the course of my work as a journalist, how intergenerational post-apartheid trauma had woven itself into South Africa's social fabric, how it disrupted interpersonal relationships and spawned social problems like gender-based violence, crime, substance abuse, and mental health crises, just like the one unfolding amongst Tsakane's youth. So I figured, why not head out to meet Naledi and get an updated perspective on South African girlhood to compare to my own experience. Naledi had reached out to me because she was competing in a beauty pageant and wanted to get her name and story out there so that the public would vote for her. I headed out to Tsakane to see what I could do to help an ambitious young woman achieve her goal, not knowing that meeting her and her family would end up helping me heal. Welcome to Golden City. I'm your host, Zanele MG, and I love a good story. This podcast is a collection of the greatest stories I've ever heard about the city of gold, Johannesburg, South Africa. In each episode, you'll meet a different Joburger who will tell you their own true stories in their own words. All the ups and downs, adventures, lessons, wins and losses that make life in Joburg truly interesting. This concrete jungle may not have mountains or beaches to compete with the natural beauty of other South African cities, but the diverse and amazing people who call Johannesburg home make this golden city shine bright. What a story. How do you feel about that? Tell me more. When I arrived at the Moloto's home in Tsakane, I was met by Naledi, her father, and her mother. Her mother asked to be excused from the interview because she wasn't feeling well. Naledi was wearing a sash.
It says Naledi Moloto, Face of Gauteng Teenager Semi-Finalist 2024. I was scrolling on Instagram and I saw an ad. I contacted Face of Gauteng Teenager via WhatsApp, and my poster, I received it on the 21st of February. I wanted to step out of my comfort zone and challenge myself. And I've always been interested in beauty pageants, competing and meeting new people, and learning new skills such as catwalking, public speaking.
My daughter is someone who, when she wants something, she goes after it. Even if you can say no, she'll stop for a few seconds and come again. I want to do this. So at the beginning, I had my suspicions about this thing of online. I was not sure about this Face of Gauteng 2024 teenager, what, because it was my first time. She saw it on Instagram by herself, and then she downloaded everything, fill up the forms by herself, We didn't know anything about it until it became real. And then, as a parent, I was not sure, because around the world, especially South Africa, is no longer safe. And then we end up doing some digging, research to see if this thing's legit. And then we found out this legit. And then she keeps on pushing. When they send her a task or something, she'll just forward it on WhatsApp for us to see. And then keep on pushing, asking for the support. And then we end up supporting her, because she's someone who doesn't stop. If she wants something, she doesn't stop. She will sing until we get it right.
In order to progress to the final round of the pageant, Naledi has been assigned a number of tasks to complete.
Oh, wow. So far, it's been a tough ride. So we had tasks. We were required to do radio interviews, and we were required to do charity work and rep your city videos where you tell us more about your city. It could be a specific place like a mall, or let's say a park. So Tsakane is a township, right? So I chose to represent Springs. So we went to Springs Mall, since it has like a lot of things to do, e.g. places where you could take like pics for Instagram, and food joints. And yeah, you could meet lots of people there. And also for shopping, there's a lot of shops for fashion.
Tsakane, where Naledi lives, means joy in Xitsonga. Like most South African townships, it was created as a result of apartheid-era forced removals and segregationist policies. Tsakane is part of a cluster of townships that date back to the 1950s and 60s, when black residents were evicted from the nearby mining towns of Springs, Brakpan, and Boksburg in what's known as the East Rand of Gauteng. Tsakane's residents served as cheap sources of labor in the nearby mines, local businesses, and suburban homes and gardens of white South Africans. In the 1930s, Springs was the largest gold-producing region in the world. But with the decline of South African gold production over the last 30 years, it is no longer the prosperous, wealthy city it once was. Its grand architecture remains as a reminder of its glory days. 34 small-scale Art Deco buildings, the greatest number in the world outside of Miami in the United States. Though gold mining activity has declined in the area, the East Rand remains a major center for mining and refining gold and coal. 75% of all gold mined on the African continent is refined in the East Rand at the Rand refinery. The refinery is also said to have processed 30% of all of the gold that has ever come out of the ground in the history of mining. But because South Africa's mining industry is synonymous with exploitation, the majority of Tsakane's residents live in abject poverty, despite their proximity to such a lucrative industrial hub. Unemployment is a growing problem in the area. Naledi's parents both work as support staff at a local clinic, and Naledi dreams of becoming a healthcare worker one day.
Between a lawyer and an OP guy.
In some ways, Naledi reminds me of myself at her age. I had just experienced a growth spurt that transformed me from a skinny, scrawny preteen into a slim, long-limbed adolescent with a brand new dazzling smile after 3 years of braces. Just like her, I had my sights set on walking a runway. I wanted to become a model, so I emailed my pictures to local agencies and even showed up in person at some of their offices to try my luck. Unlike Naledi, I was absolutely mortified at the thought of my parents finding out about this goal of mine. In my young mind, I believed that I could make it happen all by myself with no help or supervision. I never heard back from any modeling agencies. Maybe because the pictures I submitted were candids taken by friends at parties and sleepovers, and when I did walk into their offices, I showed up in my school uniform. With the help of an adult, I might have had a better idea of how to put my best foot forward. When Naledi, on the other hand, first entered the pageant, she needed 200 votes to progress to the semi-finals, so she turned to mom and dad for help.
They posted on their statuses. They voted. Their colleagues also voted.
Votes secured, Naledi is now excitedly preparing for her appearance on stage at the grand finale.
We have a grand finale on the 28th of September at the Barnyard Theatre at Mainland Park. So gonna have, on the first round, it's an introduction, and we have a second round whereby I will be wearing cultural clothes. That one has to be the showstopper. I'm thinking of mixing since they said it's gonna be a showstopper. So Spade is definitely on the list because I am Betty, and I'll decide whether to do Xhosa or Zulu. And then we have the evening wear and the Q&A, and then they announce the finalists.
In my essay, I wrote about why, as a young girl, I was so hyper-independent and determined to get things done on my own. I attribute it to a combination of wanting to avoid triggering my mother's anxiety and tendency to catastrophize, and to a distant relationship with my father. Here's a snippet of what I wrote about my parents. Throughout their lives, my parents survived terrifying near misses and goodbyes that could have easily ended up being permanent. When they got together in the 1980s, it was during the dying years of apartheid, when the state and the resistance movements had both ramped up their battles. While navigating the normal newlywed challenges of starting a family, they were also dealing with police harassment, my father's banning orders, which restricted his movement and ability to gather with people, and an increasingly tense political climate. In 1988, the year I was born, South Africa was under a state of emergency that lasted 4 years. One day, while my pregnant mother was home with my sisters who were playing outside, a tear gas canister landed in the front yard of their home. After that, it was decided that my mother and sisters would travel to the US so that my mother could be with her parents and give birth to me in a safer environment. My father stayed behind in South Africa, and we returned a few months later. To me, this story explains the heightened sense of anxiety my mother raised me with. She is fun, worldly, and stylish, and she always encouraged me to embrace life and see the world just like she did in her youth. But she also had a tendency to catastrophize and panic at the slightest pressure, which often left me choosing to just deal with things on my own growing up. Naledi is an only child, and at 14, she struck me as a bit more childlike than I was. She's definitely much closer with her parents. They say that they spend all of their free time at home together, just the three of them.
My dad is someone who's disciplined, and he likes to get things done on time. That's why sometimes we have fights, because I do my things slow, like getting ready. I take maybe 2 hours getting ready, and my dad sometimes doesn't like that. And dancing, I try to get him to do TikTok challenges with me, but I've never succeeded to this day. I've been trying to convince him for like 3 years. But yeah, and okay, I would say he loves maybe like twice a week. He doesn't like laughing, he just smiles. And well, very supportive, and when we're sitting, when I make a joke, he turns that joke into a life lesson. And yeah, that's all. Yo, my mom. So she's like other African moms. If I don't get things done, she shouts. And well, we have a great relationship. She's the one who does TikTok challenges with me. She does my hair, I do her hair. We watch TV shows together. Let me see. And sometimes she teaches me, let's say, cooking, but it's not very often. And yeah, that's all I can say.
And she's noticed that in that regard, she's very lucky compared to the other kids at school. Most of her friends don't come from the same type of family background as her.
Only one. The other's parents, some are separated, some died. And yeah, I feel thankful. and I appreciate what I have.
Perhaps I could afford to be more independent at Naledi's age because I grew up in a much safer South Africa. National crime rates have been going up every single year. In the East Rand, also known as Ekurhuleni, the number of reported sexual assault cases has surged by 100% just in the last year. When it comes to reported cases of grievous bodily harm, Tsakane's police station is one of the top 10 in the province.
It happens sometimes I want to go pick Naledi at school. She knows I shout a lot. That when it's time to go out, you must go out of school and walk straight home. If by lucky I'm around, I want to give you a lift because it's not that far. And then I'll drive past the school, I don't see her. She knows we're not going to get along because I don't trust anyone. You know, South Africa we're living in now, it's no longer a safe place because I might say it came to the place where I'd say, in short, it's a lawless country. Everyone comes and do as they please. So especially if you read news or you see on social media, especially a girl child or ladies as general, or I can say young girls and women or mothers, they are no longer safe because they are the easy target. There are those who try to do easy catch by using them, by trafficking them, kidnapping, robbing them their belongings. So, and our law enforcement authorities, it looks like they are doing nothing about that because they know exactly who are doing this thing. But there's no action that is being taken to make sure that our street is safe. Because these days when a girl child goes to school, you just pray that she comes back alive and safe. Because even where they are learning is no longer safe. There are those people that can say maybe they are possessed, or I don't know. Yeah, that is why I don't trust anyone these days around a girl child. Because things like this happening in our country, they are really shocking. So that is why I'm trying, even though I know children like to play, but where are they playing? Is that place safe? That is my problem and my worry, because it's by the mercy of God or it's by lucky where you'll find a male guardian taking a very good care of children. It's not happening on girl children only, but even young boys also happening. Even at churches, these things happen. So that is why everything, when she do something, I want to make sure that is this thing legit and safe.
Although his upbringing was much more difficult than Naledi's, Klaas remembers South Africa as a much safer place when he was her age.
Back then, life was not easy. It was difficult. No, when we were growing up, it was better. When we were growing up, it was better. Because I remember we used to walk to school with girls, playing with them. It was safe. I grew up in Limpopo, a small village called Finale under Skoror. Yeah, when I was 14, life was very, very difficult because I'm a firstborn. I grew up in the rural areas where there was no tap water, there was no electricity. So when you got out of school, you must go to the river to fetch water with the wheelbarrow. You must go to the bush, try to get firewood. It was difficult. Sometimes you don't have school shoes. During summer, you have to walk with your barefoot. Sometimes it's too hot. You walk nearly next to the grass where you can step on the grass and let the feet cool down. So it was very, very difficult. And then I told myself that one day, if God blessed me with kids, I will try to work hard so that they can have a better life than what I've had.
He was the eldest of 6 brothers, and his parents struggled to put food on the table for all of them.
They were supporting, but they were not working. That by the time I finished matric, they were not working. They were also selling some vegetables in order to put the bread on the table. So that is why I just think it's better if I go to Gauteng, maybe I'll get the green pastures there.
Naledi has enjoyed doing outreach and charity work so much that she's decided to set up a foundation, and she's given it a special name.
After she performed that task, they've given to them from it's GFT, Gauteng, Phase of Gauteng Teenagers. They gave them tasks of donation and at the homes. After done that donation, she came to me and said, "No, Dad, it's really amazing to do these things." And then she started something that, okay, how about I ask people to donate things that they don't need anymore, and then I take them to homes. It's okay, no, that one, it sounds much better. And then she started a foundation, even though it's not registered yet. She started the foundation that she named after her younger brother who is passed, and then that will be celebrating her by renaming that foundation. And then we've got the first donor, so we still have some few people that promised to bring some stuff so we can take them to different homes. She wanted to have her own business. She said, no, just imagine saying the founder of Kutulo Foundation, the CEO, in 14 years. What I'm just praying if maybe God will hear my prayers and give me power, because everything these days is money. And then even when we ask for donations, maybe people will donate. Kutulo Foundation. We do things using her name just to celebrate him and remembering him.
Naledi's younger brother, Kutulo, who was born in 2015, did not survive beyond infancy.
He was also a blessing, but they say God also wants what you want. So he became very sick for a few hours, and then he left us.
How old was he?
1 month and I think it was 6 weeks, 1 month and 1 week. Yeah, it was very tough. I had to drink energy drink every day. Energy drink.
Okay.
Dragon, play Monster, so that you don't sleep on the road. Because I will have time in the morning, but after 2, I'm getting tired because I didn't sleep well. I remember 2017, my wife told me that you must go to see someone professional, or must go to see a doctor. And then I went to see a doctor, and then he referred me to someone. And then the professional nurse that was helping me, she asked me, because after she was taking this, what they call BP and stuff, she asked me if I do have stress because it was too high. And then I say, yeah, sometimes I think a lot. And then she asked me why. And I told her, and she tried to give me some advices, and then they gave me some tablets to drink for 2 weeks and come back after 2 weeks to check the BP, and then they found everything is normal. And then just told me that it's not something that you can forget, but it's something that you must just adjust to live with it. My life was never the same since from 2015 again.
It didn't affect me back then, but now it's coming to me like I lost a brother, so it's something I'll never heal from.
I don't talk a lot about that. I write a lot about it. Yeah, I like to express my feelings during writing. So I wrote a lot of stuff, but I didn't publish it. I was just writing. When I feel like I can speak about this thing, I will either sing about it or write it down. Sometimes when I'm alone and then I feel like my problems are coming. So whatever I think about it at that time, I start writing. Some other stuff I can say is poem, because like speaking about pain. Yeah. So I think I've got few of them here with me. If is that.
Please share one.
And then this is the longest one. Stress and anxiety. Stress is a silent killer of vision and dreams, an enemy of life and society at large. Stress is like a lion next to the road, waiting to attack its prey. Stress is unpredictable and colorless, has no age. Stress is an enemy of happiness. Stress takes people's life and dreams. No one knows the future, but we can plan for it. Stress can take taste out of your mouth, and stress can destroy your immune system and sometimes even send you to early grave. It's important to take a very good care of our mental health. Sometimes it's not easy to accept when things are not going right, but for the sake of our health, we need to be so cautious. Stress steals husband and wife away from their children. Stress doesn't knock at your doorstep and wait to be welcomed. Doesn't make any appointment with anyone. You are an enemy of life and a silent killer.
When Klaus talks about how hard he worked to provide his children with a better life than he had, it reminds me of my own father, who did the same. My sisters and I grew up in a beautiful home in the suburbs and were afforded the best education possible, as well as opportunities to travel and see the world from a young age. Here's what I wrote in the essay. We engaged in all the public activities of a happy family: dinners, vacations, spirited intellectual debates, not from a place of pretense, I believe, but from one of true effort. But our emotional life was distance and tense. To me, my parents seemed much more comfortable expressing negative emotions than positive ones. My father could be intellectually engaging and physically affectionate, but also emotionally unavailable and volatile. I remember him as demanding and controlling, imposing rules that struck me as arbitrary. Fun outings, bedtime routines, unexpected treats and tickles were rare. It was my mother's way of enabling my father that took me down the path of self-healing. She often excused his behavior with the usual, "He loves you, but," and referred to some of the difficult things he'd gone through in prison and at the hands of the apartheid government as explanations for why he was so emotionally damaged. My childhood mistakes, not finishing all of my dinner, talking back, sparked cruel, outsized reactions in him, as if my acting out was part of a plot to destroy him. Looking back, his distrust of me almost seemed like a form of paranoia.
I'd say men doesn't cry. Munnagunku doesn't cry. Sometimes people are different and handle things differently. As I've mentioned, a broken man or woman is an unhappy family or home, while an unhappy family might cause unhappy of the community and the community lead to the unhappy nation and the world at large. Let us not mock such people. Instead, let's help, let's hold hands and support each other. And remember, together we can. I want to encourage the society at large, especially parents, to create a lively household and have a welcoming platform to their hearts, to be able to listen to their children and have conversation with them, because they are also experiencing the same situation as adults. Because by doing that, we will be building a strong nation from the ground. We will be that seed planted on the rich soil, as the Bible says. Say no to stress or depression or anxiety. Say no to child and women abuse, and say no to men abuse or any gender-based violence.
Watching Naledi's father speak and read poems about his grief in front of his daughter, I thought about the fact that I had never seen my own father open up and be so vulnerable. I'd never heard him speak about his own pain, the things in his life that he has struggled to heal and move on from. His emotions were much more likely to come bursting out of him in uncontrolled rages that terrified me. My own self-healing journey started in my late 20s to early 30s when I decided to go to psychotherapy, a decision motivated by the fact that I had noticed that I too struggled to control my own outbursts of anger. I was starting to scare myself. Watching Klaas not only model vulnerability and self-awareness for his daughter, but also healthy coping mechanisms, helped me understand the emotional distance between my father and I a little bit better. It was not just my father's behaviors that I had witnessed that had driven a wedge between us. It was also what he hadn't shown me: poetry, singing, healthy ways of coping and processing emotions.
The pain I feel, I don't wish to anyone, because it might destroy them. It's not like I'm perfect for it is just I've accepted and I forgave myself, and no, I've jumped on one. It's too long now, it's getting too into the eyes. So I've got a lot of them.
I asked Naledi what she thought of her father's writing.
Yeah, it's great. It's amazing. And it has a lot of lessons in just one writing.
They also bond over a love of gospel music.
My dad really likes, let me say, the choral kind of gospel, where it's just a lot of people singing, others backing up. I like the instrumental kind of gospel.
Following the suicide attempts at Tsakane's secondary school, the media turned its attention on the township to report on what had gone wrong, what pressures the teenagers at the school and across the country are facing to have led to what the Department of Basic Education has acknowledged as a national mental health crisis amongst South African youth. Representatives of the department and other experts pointed to various issues such as academic pressure, bullying, financial hardship, and domestic abuse and violence. They also announced a plan to make certain interventions, such as increasing mental health services and the presence of counselors and psychologists at schools. They plan to train teachers to identify signs of mental health issues and to pilot programs that educate learners and their families about mental health. Looking back on my own childhood and getting to learn a little bit more about Naledi's, I believe that's what's just as, if not more important than intervention, is investment. Investment into building young people's resilience through sports, hobbies, community service, and strong interpersonal relationships. Investment into their talents, interests, and passions might preclude the need for interventions when they are already struggling. I asked Naledi what winning the pageant would mean to her.
Well, it would mean a lot since I would get lots of followers, and I have this thing. Okay, I'd call it a donation, so I'd reach more donors in that way since I'll have more following and make a positive impact in our community.
Whether she takes the crown or not, Naledi will be rewarded with so much more than just a title. She will have practiced skills that will carry her through the ups and downs of the rest of her life. Things like connection to community and to causes greater than herself. The ability to reach out and network with people like me who are outside of her world, and a closer bond and relationship with her parents. As I write in the essay, quote, "There is much ownership to be taken and work to be done on our parts. The work of deciding and pursuing who we want to be as a people, what we want it to feel like to be South African."
No, I'm very happy that she's growing under my supervision, because even my parents wanted her to grow that side of Limpopo. So I also said, no, I want her this side. So I can monitor her, I can share whatever I have with her. So I will know what she needs, and then I'll make a plan to see how I provide that. I'm not trying to attack fathers or males. If I may say, if every man or every father take responsibility, or every father or every male be there for their children, we won't have what we see in South Africa these days. You know, a child doesn't want a rich father, just want to see a father coming home with a loaf of bread. That bread will make a child happy. And then child knows that when my father comes home, he will come with that stock suit of 250. That makes a child happy. So what I can say to other male or father out there is to be there to support their children. And it doesn't matter where you stay or what you have. That share that water with your child is most important thing she will never forget.
Thank you for visiting Golden City. If you liked this episode, like, follow, subscribe on all social media and streaming platforms. If you love this podcast, give us 5 stars. I'd love to feature you on Golden City. To submit your story, go to www.goldencitypodcast.co.za. See you next time.